as inflation rages. As inflation continues to erode purchasing power, more Americans are relying on credit cards to pay basic expenses. According to the Census Bureau in December, over 35% of households use credit cards or loans to pay for expenses in the past week, up 32% in November, 21% from April of 2021. Interest rates on credit cards are currently at high levels, with the average APR setting a new record. Damn. Is that true? 19.14% last week, according to Bankrate.com. If people carry debt to cover rising prices, they could end up paying more in the long run as interest charges accrue. Credit card balances increased by more than 15% year on year in November, the largest increase in over 20 years, according to New York Fed survey. Tom, what are your thoughts on this?
We've been talking about this on the PBD podcast over the last couple months. I said as those interest rates goes up, that the banks would raise the interest rates on credit cards, and they did. And additionally, you've got consumers with wage stagnation are turning to the credit card to pay for things. And we saw some travel going down. Certainly people aren't going to be paying to go on Southwest Airlines anytime soon. And you had electronics had a bummer Christmas. You saw that? Like big, PlayStations, big screen TVs, and electronics had a bum Christmas. Why was that? Well, it's because inflation on core food stuff, and we're also a story in here about we're at an all-time high on food costs. That has forced people to use the only place they could get a raise to cover is artificial, and that's from their credit card. The other side of this, it's very, very interesting, is that this is directly related to housing. People are right now, rents are edging up, and the housing prices are not dropping as fast. So those same consumers are kind of stuck. They can't make a change in their housing costs. Like maybe I'll sell my house and lease something for a year, let prices come down. It's all interrelated here. The pinch is coming, and what's even worse is we're seeing layoffs are going to come February, March, April. We're going to see layoffs pick up. So you got consumers that are already pinched by inflation using their credit card. Layoffs are coming. So everybody that says there's not a recession this year is just not paying attention. It's a hurricane coming ashore, and we could talk more about housing in a little bit, what's going on there. But this is huge, Pat. This is people are being pinched, and we are spinning it in the mainstream media, and we are not talking about the kind of things that need to help the American consumer.
Tom, why don't you go into housing? So what do you see happening with housing?
What's very interesting right now, what's going on. So because the interest rates are so high, when you put your house on the market, it's hard to find the buyers, and the housing is sitting there longer. So people are not putting that inventory out there. If the inventory was out there, the prices would go down because there's more houses out there. Buyers who could afford the interest rate, even though it's 6-7%, actually, and 8% if your credit's not good. And so the inventory right now is staying steady, so prices are flat. When people say, well, that's great. Yeah, except if you look at the number of transactions aren't happening. Look at the number of new mortgages and number of transactions. Transactions are down 80% last year, 70% last year, depending on the market.
Transactions are down 70%.
Yeah, if you take a look at like refi, go look at refis year over year. I think refis year over year are almost zero. And if you get at real estate transactions, now Miami may be a little bit better where we are here, but transactions in the housing market, houses aren't selling. And the home builders, you look at Toll Brothers, Lanier, and out there.
Here, Rob, I'm sending you a link. Go to this one. Go to this website here. That's the rates. I want you to go to this website. It shows the refinance application level index. The numbers are unbelievable what it is. Look at that. Zoom in a little bit.
There.
Year over year, 86.2% refinancing is down.
Yeah. So,
but by the way, let me just put it to you this way. For a loan officer, this is what that means. If you were making $100,000 a month a year ago, you're making $13,800.
And you're probably buying groceries with your credit card.
If you were a loan officer a year ago making $10,000 a month, you're making $1,380 a month, returning your S-Class, and you're selling your watches you bought for $15,000 for $4,200.
And you just moved in with your mom.
Mom and dad are loving that.
Wow. This is no joke, by the way. This is a real number. That's a scary, week over week is 30%.
Yep. So when people say, what we're hearing in media, housing prices are steady. Well, yeah, but you can't sell it. right? The number one thing, and help me out here, Adam, you know a lot of people in real estate, and Sauce Talks Money, you've got a lot of topics on this, that when you're accepting an offer for your home, the number one thing you want is certainty of close. You want to evaluate the buyer. Is the down payment real, or was it loaned by somebody? And now the mortgage lender is going to freak out and say, wait, we can't do that. You can't be using borrowed money to make a down payment. It's certainty of close, right? It's appraisal. It's everything that goes through that. Right now, certainty of close is low because who can afford the 7% mortgage, and what would I do once I sold my house? And you're seeing it in a transaction. So as soon as the inventory gets out there, housing prices are going to go down. What I, and you, Pat, you've been saying this too, by the end of this year, and I'm still holding to my third quarter, in third quarter, Fed will drop rates for the first time, probably early third quarter, 4th of July maybe. Fed drops rates for the first time, a little more inventory comes out, housing prices come down, and that part of the market moves. But in the meantime, this and credit cards and the interest rates on the credit cards, consumers are in for a very, very rough ride right now. And if you're in a marginalized industry, you're probably also looking at layoffs. There's a recession coming. And so everybody said, it was a soft landing and all this. We haven't landed yet. We haven't landed at all. We're still in the recession, and we're the clicking stage of the roller coaster. Click, 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 click.
We haven't
click,
dropped yet.
Yeah. We haven't dropped yet. Everybody's going to raise their hands and scream.
At the same time, I want to read this to you. So it says the U.S.'s chance of dodging a recession are growing given layoffs remain low. Top Moody economist, okay, he says, this is page 3. He says that maybe we're going to get past this recession and it won't even happen. The U.S. economy may avoid a recession in 2023, according to Mark Zandi, the top economist at Moody's Analytics. He pointed to Friday's job report, which showed average hourly earnings rising by lower than expected 0.3% and unemployment rate falling to 3.5% as evidence that companies are not laying off workers. Zandi added that the wage inflation falling while employment remains high is also a good sign for the U.S. economy as people in jobs are likely to spend more and save less, feeding into the economic growth. Many companies have put in place short-term hiring freezes and reduce workers' overall hours in an effort to lower spending. So that's what he's saying. And then Greenspan is saying, economists Alan Greenspan and William Dudley have both warned that a recession is likely coming this year. Greenspan, former Federal Reserve chairman, stated that a recession is the most likely outcome, while Dudley, former New York Federal Reserve president, said that U.S. recession is likely due to the Federal Reserve rate hikes. Daryl Cronk, chief investment officer for Wealth and Investment Management, agreed that Greenspan's prediction and argued that a recession is the likely outcome due to the combination of tightening money supply and a strong U.S. dollar and falling bank reserves. However, Cronk disputed Dudley's argument that Federal Reserve rate hikes are the sole cause of potential recession. So here's a question for you.
I'm on this page. I'm with Greenspan.
So, but why? But this other person is making a point saying, "Hey, it's not as bad as you think it is. Wages haven't dropped. Unemployment dropped to 3.5%. It's not just going to be a soft landing. We may even skip it." Who has a better argument?
I think Greenspan does, because I think the Moody's side. I think when you only look at the job side of it, you don't see the capability of the consumer, and you don't see what's happening to consumers' own spending. The credit cards, he is guessing on
he
this.
being who? From Moody's?
Moody's.
Yeah.
Moody's is guessing in an analytical way. I mean, using analytics, they're making a guess that, we've added 223,000 jobs, and we got all these our earnings rising 0.3%. How does he, even with a straight face, look in the camera and say, earnings have risen 0.3% from November, when you're talking about 7-8% annual inflation, and we got statistics what's going on in credit cards. Credit cards are more expensive than ever, and the banks are saying, hey, we're looking at balances are big.
Point.
Those are hard data points. So, okay, you kept your jobs are flat and everything, but inflation is still up, and how are you making up the difference? And we just talked about what's happening to the entire mortgage and home buying industry. I don't know. I think if you just look at macro jobs, I don't think so, whereas the Fed looks at the data points of the sectors and consumer spending and things. So I tend to be on the page of Allen, and I tend to look at the hard data. Consumers, right now are not having an easy time of it. Hard data. We didn't have a crazy TV Christmas. We didn't have a big electronics Christmas. We had a very soft Christmas at Best Buy. What does that say? That's hard data. So I'm kind of, I hope it's not here, Pat, but I'm fearful that this is a recession coming and we're going to have layoffs with it, and then the whole thing starts turning around when we get down to that 2% inflation, and then,
Adam, what are your thoughts?
Jay Powell comes back.
By the way, when do you see 2% inflation being a realistic number?
Jay Powell says when he can see it in the future, that's when he moves it. So I kind of think he'll be able, at mid-year, he's going to be looking toward the end of the year and says, you know what, I can see 2% inflation from here.
It's funny. What was the word of the year for 2022? It was like gaslighting, or I'm shocked that the word of the year was not transitory. How many times did we hear that word? What's transitory? Inflation. Transitory. Janet Yellen, Jay Powell, everybody transitory. It's transitory. I mean, trans was like probably the word of the year in 2022. That's a whole other topic. Yeah, they're killing that game. But by the way, shout out to Alan Greenspan. How old do you think Alan Greenspan is at this point?
94.
Yeah,
he's 96, about to be 97 this quarter in March, doing his thing. But here's what I'll say, because we started off
he's
this
seen a few cycles.
He knows what he's doing. He's seen some transitory stuff. Here's what I'll say about, because we initiated this conversation about the credit cards. What a difference a year makes. Even when at the beginning of COVID, when everybody was on lockdown, you saw the savings rates were going up, credit card debt was going down, people weren't traveling, people weren't spending. All of a sudden, people had to be fiscally conservative. This is crazy.
Great point.
Right? You're getting whether you're getting stimulus checks or unemployment checks, people actually had to be like, holy crap, what is happening right now? Let me get ready for this, have a budget in my life. So people started implementing that. And then after, a year or so of lockdown, fighting on planes, people going nuts, travel came back, airlines came back, airline stocks came back, travel, cruise lines, everything. People started returning to normal. And what is returning to normal in America? Taking on more debt, baby. Yeah. Living paycheck to paycheck, baby. That's normal here in America. So I am not shocked that these numbers that came back from credit cards, these ridiculous numbers, what is the season that people start spending the most money? Q4. This is the holiday season. Between Thanksgiving, you got, Black Friday, you got Cyber Monday, then you got Christmas season, it's New Year's. You're spending. Like, if I'm that, this might be alarming. If I'm that person that's living paycheck to paycheck but really wants to get their significant other or family members toys, not this year, baby. And what you have to understand is when it comes to your money, it's not a month by month thing. It's not even it's you have to look at it year over year over year, because you might have had a situation in 2020 where you were able to actually to save some money and pay down some debt. But in 2021, there it was again, back to your normal. That's the return to normal that most Americans don't really fully understand, is that you're going back to credit cards. So these numbers are horrible. Like, for someone like me that considers themselves a personal finance expert, that's my thing. Tom, you're more macroeconomics. You understand the big picture. I like helping people that make 50 grand a year, 100 grand a year, 200 grand a year. How can you maximize the most out of your money? And when I see stats like this, it's like, of course you're back to paycheck, because did you really need to spend $3 grand during the holiday seasons? And then here's what's going to happen now over the next 6 months. Prediction time. Tax season's coming up. Okay. What are you going to do with your refund? I'm asking you. If you get a $5,000 refund, does that go into your Roth IRA? Are you going to max out your 401k? Or is it summer season coming around? The hot girl summer, white boy summer. Now we're going on vacation. Now we're going to St. Bart's. Now we're going to Mykonos. Now we're traveling. These situations that you do with $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $10,000, what you decide to do with that type of money will literally change your life. But you have to do it year over year over year over year. But most Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, thinking month to month. They don't have that long-term vision to save that money.
It's a good point you're making.
I take you back to your own man-on-the-street interview with a young lady that was down in South Florida using
$6,000 stimulus.
Remember that?
Yeah.
You talked to her. What
Remember
did she
that? Yeah.
She stand there with a Go Cup, drinking in front of you, and you're asking, "What are you doing here? Are you saving it?" No, we just came down here to party, man. We get some free government money.
Habits don't change.
No.
But the part that's concerning is where it says setting a new record of 19.14% last week. That's a new record, meaning we've never done that before, okay?
Yeah.
You have a good point that's coming off the holiday season, which people are spending. This is my concern. My concern is, when you're at the end of a relationship where you guys are dating and you're kind of like, you're just waiting for the other person to break up, or it's like you're in too deep, it ain't going to go anywhere, but you're comfortable. You got somebody to hang out with Friday night, Saturday, whatever. But this shit's not going anywhere. I don't know if you've been there before. I've been there before a couple of times.
We've all been there.
So when you're in it, you're dragging and you're delaying a time bomb that's going to happen instead of making a decision.
Yeah.
We are delaying a time bomb because people are gradually running out of money. All this means, with the economy not having hit rock bottom yet, it just means people still have some savings they're sitting on. And they're waiting before they put their house on the market because they don't have to. They're waiting before they sell that watch because they don't yet have to.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.